Hey, sixth graders, welcome to lesson 5 here in chapter 7. And today we're going to talk about percents. Um, we're just going to kind of introduce percents today, and we'll kind of get a little bit more complicated with them as we work our way through chapter 7 here. Our lesson objective for the day is to be able to write percents as decimals and as fractions. Right? We want to think about their relationship as fluid, and they can be either written as a decimal or a fraction. So we're going to get some practice with that today. Well, let's start with some vocab. What is a percent? I know some of you have heard about a percent in terms of like you get a percent on a grade. What a percent is a ratio of a number to 100. Okay. Cent, the word cent, if you think about a penny, you've heard that referenced as a cent. It's worth 1 cent. And how many pennies does it take to make a dollar? Well, it takes 100. So a cent per cent is 1 out of 1 cent per 100 will give you a dollar. So that's one way to think about it. If you're thinking about a century is 100 years. There's that word cent again. Okay. So a percent is a ratio of a number to 100. So say, for example, we had an assignment and it was out of 10 points and you got 5 out of 10. What's your percent? Well, it's out of a ratio out of 100. So to keep equivalency here, I'd multiply by 10 in my denominator and multiply by 10 in my numerator. So 50 over 100 would give me 50%. 5 out of 10 is half, or 50%. So that's kind of the basics of it. We'll get into a little bit more of the specifics here. So in the first example, it says use a 10 by 10 square grid to model 17%. So you'll see it's 10 this way and 10 this way. That's why it's a 10 by 10. So a 10 by 10 square grid has a total of, well, 10 times 10 is 100 squares. Hey, same thing. It's a ratio of a number to 100. So 17% means 17 out of a number compared to 100. Or you can think about that as 17 over 100. 17 out of 100. So what we need to do is we need to shade 17 squares out of a total of 100. All right, so here would be 10 and then 7 more. I'm going to leave 1, 2, 3 of them blank. All right, and there is an example of 17%. It's 17 out of a total of 100. All right, let's look at the next example. It asks us to write 35% as a fraction in simplest form. Again, write the percent as a fraction with the denominator of 100. Okay, so 35% is the same as 35 over 100. And then you want to, the directions ask us to write it in simplest form. So think about, what do 35 and 100 have in common? Well, remember that if it ends in a 5 or a 0, it's divisible by 5. So you'll see that's what they did here. They divided both the top and the bottom of their fraction by 5. So 35 divided by 5 would give me 7, and 100 divided by 5 would give me 20. So written as a fraction, 35% is 7/20 in simplest form. 7 out of 20 would give you 35%, and 35 out of 100 would give you 35%. They are equivalent. All right, let's turn the page and look at the next example. It says Janelle has 20% body fat. Write 20% as a fraction in simplest form. All right, kind of similar to what we just did. Write the percent as a start by writing it as a fraction with the denominator of 100. So here 20% is 20 over 100. And then you just need to write the fraction in simplest form. So a couple different ways to do this. You can look and see, well, 20 and 100 are both divisible by 20. Or some people might be looking at 20 over 100 and saying, okay, well, I could divide by 10 because I end in both zeros. So I'm left with 2 out of 10. And 2 out of 10 are both even numbers. So I could divide each of those by 2 to come up with a total of 1/5. Right? So then, written as a fraction, 20% is 1/5 in simplest form. All right, let's try the next. It asks us now to write the decimal as write our percent as a decimal, not as a fraction. Okay, and the first step is similar. You write the percent as a fraction with a denominator of 100. So 56% is 56 over 100. Well, some of you may have noticed this is like this can be thought of as dividing 56 divided by 100. Okay, so does 50, how many times does 100 go into 56? Well, it doesn't. It's too big. So 0, decimal, and then how many times you have to move another place value? Does 100 go into 560? Well, that would be 5 times, which is 500. Subtract, you'd get 660 and bring down your other 0. Come up with 600. And how many times does 100 go into 600? That would be 6. Okay, so 56 written as a decimal. 56% written as a decimal is 0.56. And some of you might have noticed a little something there, but the quickest way to think about doing this, when you divide by 100, it's the same as moving your decimal 2 places to the left. Right? So say we had 28%. Well, where's the decimal? Well, it's after the 8 because it's this 28 is the same as 28.0%. Move your decimal 2 places to the left. So it would be 0.28. Would be 28% as a decimal. And I'm guessing some of you have done this before, like on a homework assignment. And when you divide, you get a decimal. So you're automatically already moving it 2 spots to the right and figuring out your percent. Let's just write in this one reminder. To go from a percent to decimal, move your decimal 2 places to the left. And why are we doing that? Well, moving 2 places to the left with your decimal spot is the same thing as dividing by 100. That's the same exact thing. It's just kind of a quick and easy way to do it. All right? That means 56 divided by 100, which is 56 100ths. Okay? And to do that, you just need to move your decimal spot 2 places. All right, flip to the last page here, where we'll do one more example like that, and then the check it out section. It says water made up 85% of the fluids that Kirk drank yesterday. Write 85% as a decimal. Right, so like before, write your percent as a fraction with a denominator of 100. So this 85% is 85 over 100. And then just take 85 divided by 100. Okay, write the fraction as a decimal. So like before, 85 divided by 100 would look like this. But like you saw in the last example, just need to move your decimal 2 spots to the left. So it's 0.85 for our answer. All right, pause the video here for the check it out section. All right, I'm going to do my very best here to make a 10 by 10 square grid model, but there's going to be no promises here because making straight lines is difficult enough. But when I'm doing it on my pen tablet, it can be tricky. Okay, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, whoops. Okay, stop that. Let's see if I can erase that. There we go. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Now I'll do it the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I'll just extend my lines here. Okay, that's really ugly, but pretend it's not for a little while, okay? All right, so there's 100 squares here, and I need to represent 26%. So I would shade in 26. So 10, 20, and then 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, there's 26 out of 100, representing 26%. 65 as a fraction in simplest form. So I'd start by writing it over 100, and then I'd see that they're both divisible by 5 since they end in a 5 or 0. So if I divide by 5 and if I divide by 5 in my numerator, I have to divide by 5 in my denominator. So 100 divided by 5 would be 20, and 65 divided by 5 would be 13. And this is as simple as I can go. Number 3, Timmy is a football player with 10% body fat, right? 10% as a fraction in simplest form. So 10 out of 100, and then divide each by 10 would be 1/10 is 10% in simplest form. 32% as a decimal. Again, I like to use this little cheat code. So 0.32 or 0.32, same thing, 32 hundredths. And 95% as a decimal would be 0.95 or 95 100ths. Same as 95 100ths, which is per 100. All right, so there you have it for just the intro to percents. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll be glad to help, and I will see you next time.